Coming up on Max TV, we take a look back at Boxing After Dark. Diaz battles Malanagi. We take a look at the season finale of Friday Night Fights, and we have news and note. Coming up on the next round, brought to you by Everlast. And welcome to the next round, brought to you by Everlast. And folks, we are back. It is Steve, Kim, and Gabe Montoya. We are in the press box for a couple of reasons. It's about 150 degrees out there. There are fires burning around all around us. But folks, our summer vacation is over, and we are back once again on TNR. We begin round number one. We go back August 22nd, Houston, Texas, for another edition of Boxing After Dark. Juan Diaz with a 12-round decision over Paulie Malanagi in controversial fashion, 115, 113, 118, 110, and 116, 112. Also, leading up to that bout, IBF Junior Lightweight title is on the line, and we have a new champion. The Ghost was busting. Robert Guerrero with a 12-round decision over the tough Malcolm Klossman. Okay, Gabe, let's get right to it. Even if you thought the tough young man from Brooklyn, Paulie Malanagi, won this fight like I did by a score of 115, 113. I think one scorecard, that of Gail Van Hoy, who's become the Lone Star State version of Dalby Shirley, has completely put out of kilter just what type of decision this was. I think this is what I call a 7-5er. Any guy could have won 7 rounds to 5 in either direction, but to call this a complete travesty and calling for the abolishment of boxing, or I'm never going to walk away, is completely out of bounds, Gabe.
No, and I think, too, the other factor here is that Paulie Malanagi did kind of pull the Phil Jackson, in the playoffs, where he went to the press and said, look, the fight's going to be called this way. This judge is going to do this judge is going to do that. I'm going to get robbed. And he kind of set the table for a robbery. And then he fought kind of like a guy that was going to get robbed. He would dominate for a little bit with his jab. And this is an amateur boxing. You can't just pity-pat, and not really put anything on the hot dog and just keep moving and expect to win in some guy's home state. So that, he started taking off a lot of time in the rounds. There's like minutes where he wouldn't fight. And Diaz kept coming forward. He was pressing the fight, the aggressive guy, landing the harder shots. In a guy's hometown, that's going to get you a loss. You can't
Gabe,
complain about it.
I love the analogy of the Big Chief Triangle, and I do believe he was telling everybody, I'm going to walk down this street, and I'm going to get mugged by this guy, and then strong-armed by this guy, and this guy is going to chain snatch me. And in many respects, that did happen. Gail Van Hoy and his appointment, and Lawrence Cole, who's essentially the big house ref in the state of Texas because of some family matters, that has to be addressed. However, if you judge this like a professional fight, and this is not AIBA, this is not the Olympics, hard, effective, clean punching, well, those things don't exist in the vocabulary of Paulie Malanagi.
No, and he will, kind of stay in the pocket and throw his jab and occasionally, throw something behind it. But to me, it just seemed like a lot that Diaz didn't get enough credit for his defense. He does pick off shots. A lot of those shots weren't clean. And, okay, so maybe he landed, double the jabs that Diaz did, or triple the jabs that he did. But Diaz, landed the hard shots inside. He landed that hook. He kept Paulie moving. And it becomes a question of what do you like? And how do you perceive who's dictating the fight? Is it the guy that's always on the run? Or is it the guy that's kind of moving forward and forcing him to run? And I think there was equal parts in the fight. The first time I saw it, it was 7-5 Diaz. Next time I watched it, I could swing it the other way for Paulie. Ultimately, you could see it as a draw. Maybe they should just do it again.
Yes, but this is not Chavez Whitaker. This is not Tyrone Everett against Alfredo Escalera.
Santa Cruz or Casamayor.
Yeah, and all this talk of, well, they should do it in New York. Well, here's the problem. Paulie Malanagi is a bright personality. However, does not have an exciting style and is not promoted to be a draw in the Big Apple. Well, Juan Diaz, the baby bull, even though this was a very disappointing outcome at the box office, previous 2 fights, he had drawn nearly 30,000 people. From an economic standpoint, it only makes sense to have this fight in Texas. Now, even though Juan Diaz got the decision, I think a couple of things are clear. Just my gut feel, I get the sense we've already seen the best of the baby bull.
Absolutely.
And if we want to see anything near that level, needs to get back down to 135. He just looked a step slow.
Yeah, he looked very much a step slow. I don't know if that was a little bit of rust. He took some time off before beginning training camp. But to me, he's not going to carry the 140 pounds. At 135, he's a strong puncher, but not like a knockout kind of one-punch guy. And I just don't see how he keeps the 140-pounders off him. I think if he goes to war with like a Juan Arango, I think he gets knocked out. I mean, even though that guy's slow as a turtle, he still has got the puncher's edge, and the style matchup plays into his hands. I don't really see what he can do at 140.
The one fight at 140 you can make from a promotional standpoint, and perhaps this guy's even more faded than Juan Diaz, Ricky Hatton. I think Ricky Hatton, either Houston or Manchester, is a very big draw.
Yeah.
The thing that was disappointing about Juan Diaz was, listen, I'm not saying he has the greatest chin at all. I'm not saying he's the fastest guy. He's not a great athlete. I thought he was a plotter, though. I thought he followed around Malanagi the whole night without a jab. And the one thing he had been able to do in the past was to close the gap quickly with his feet, smother guys, and throw a lot of punches. Now, some of the remnants of the hand speed were there, but from an aspect of foot speed, he looked very, very slow.
Yeah, from the waist down, he looked a little bit older, a little like the miles. That's where they were showing. And granted that might just be the fact that he only trains by swimming. He doesn't do a lot of road work, and maybe as he's getting older, maybe he needs to change things up.
He might be an old 25. I mean, Gabe, here's a guy that I believe turned pro as a junior in high school at age 16 or 17, and he has a rough, tough style like a Joe Frazier. It's not fuel efficient, so he's definitely an SUV. Yeah. Most of his fights, even his dominant performances, they are all 12-round fights. So this is a guy on the odometer. He may already be at 200,000 miles as a prize fighter.
I would agree with that. He kind of looks like that. And that come-forward Mexican style where you've got to throw 1,000 punches, the minute you start to kind of fall off a little bit, like you say, you fall right off the cliff. It's not a gradual decline. And I think we're starting to see the beginnings of it.
On this card also, Robert Guerrero would take the IBF junior lightweight title from Malcolm Clausen. Listen, I'm not saying it was a great fight, but I thought this was a very good fight. And I thought a very good rehabilitation performance from Robert Guerrero. I thought he boxed very well early, despite a cut and perhaps even a broken right hand or left hand. He held through and he held off the hard-charging Clausen. This is exactly the type of performance that Robert Guerrero needed at this stage of his career.
Yeah, it was a gutsy little chess match. Clausen really wanted to get more punches off, and Guerrero just wouldn't let him. He kept hitting him, turning, moving beautifully, and then when he started to kind of slow down, tire a little bit, and maybe have hurt his hand, that's when the fight started to get really interesting. And you had to see him kind of just gut his way through. And the fight to me seemed like a culmination of everything that Guerrero has been working on and trying to learn over the years. He kind of had an off-speed pitch, then he knew how to mix in something really hard and keep Clausen's respect. It was a great performance.
The one thing that I think Robert Guerrero did very well first half of the fight is something he's very inconsistent at is utilizing his reach and his length. He doesn't always do a good job of scoring a guy off from the outside and using that distance. I thought the first 4 rounds he did an excellent job. And listen, we know all about human nature. I don't think there's any doubt, in my opinion, the reception and some of the reaction that he got from the Duad Jordan pullout. I think that he knew in his mind, I don't care if I'm cut, I don't care if I have a broken hand, I better fight on, win, lose, or draw, or I may never get back here to HBO.
A lot of people say he just flat out quit and look for a way out, and we won't even get into all that. But whatever that he did, whatever you want to call it, he played that card already, and he doesn't get to play it anymore. He's got to gut it out from here on in. Should make for exciting fights.
Gabe, and talking to some of the people around Robert Guerrero, Bob Santos and Shelley Finkel, who co-managed the Ghost, the name they want immediately, Humberto Soto in December. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think that is the appropriate fight. And you know what? I'm going to say it right now. I know this may be an upset to a lot of people's eyes. I think Malcolm Clausen and his style is more difficult than Humberto Soto, who's kind of a plotter and a bigger guy, maybe easier to find. I guess what? I kind of like the upset special. I like Robert Guerrero's youth and activity to beat Humberto Soto.
Yeah, that's the 50-50 fight. It's definitely not a way out of left field pick. I reserve the right to get closer to the fight.
And I do think the experience with Clausen, going through the fire, the baptism by fire, I think helps him out in a future fight with a guy like Soto.
And Clausen's got a lot more athleticism than Soto does, and Soto might have been at that weight a little bit longer than he should have. So he's kind of turning into a bit of a plotter, even more so, and becoming more economical. The thing is that Guerrero loves to go to war, and that plays right into Soto's hands. If he fights like he did in the first 4 rounds against Clausen, he can pull out 8-4. But if he goes to war, then I think Soto's got the edge in power.
So there you have it, Boxing After Dark, Houston. We may have had ripoff. That's it for round number 1 of the next round on Everlast. We come back. We take a look at Friday Night Fights. And we are back. Round number 2 of the next round, brought to you by Everlast Worldwide. Steve Kim and Gabriel Montoya. We are back from our summer vacation. In Hollywood, Florida, it was a season premiere of Friday Night Fights for the IBF light heavyweight title. There was a storm cloud brewing from Tallahassee, and it is Tavoris Cloud with a 12-round decision over Clinton Woods. And then in the main event for the IBF junior welterweight title, and still the champion, Juan Urango stops Randall Bailey coming off the canvas in 11 rounds. Going back to the co-feature, Tavoris Cloud is exciting. He's hard-hitting. He is fun. Listen, I don't know how he handles good movement or boxers, but Tavoris Cloud, in my opinion, is must-see TV.
Yeah, he's all action, man. I hadn't really, I'd seen some rounds of him. I hadn't really sat down and watched a fight of his live before, and I was glued to the screen. I mean, the guy, he kind of reminds me of, and maybe I could be way off, but just reminds me of a little bit of Obakar. He kind of comes forward. He's got that 1-2, the really nice left hook. Not a lot of head movement, so he gets hit a little more than he should. But he's got, some decent defense. But I thought it was a hell of a performance against Clinton Woods, who, was on the other side of the hill and maybe, was getting to be about that time. But Tavares Cloud did what he had to do.
I think you can make the argument, Gabe, that Tavares Cloud in defeating Clinton Woods over 12 was much more dominant and, just as importantly, much more exciting than Antonio Tarver last year.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I do like about Tavares Cloud, I know he's been inactive. I know he's been on a milk carton. He's been harder to find than Jimmy Hoffa. But he has promised to be an active champion. And I hope so, because I think there's a premium. And we talked about Paulie Malanagi in the last segment. It's not just enough, in my opinion, to be effective. I think more than ever, in the era of the MMA eating into the boxing marketplace, you have to be entertaining. That's part of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, with the UFC is the guys seem to be risking more, and it seems innately more violent anymore than boxing does. And a guy like Tavares Cloud or James Kirkland, who might be coming back in 6 weeks, guys that just bring it and they just come forward, and yeah, they have skill, but bottom line is they're trying to knock the other guy out. We need more guys like that.
And Tavares Cloud, if he is a guy, as you hear our finest black and white go to work here in LA, yes. What I like about Tavares Cloud is there's going to come a time when a guy's going to stink it out. They're going to box, they're going to move.
Sure.
And he could have 2 or 3 losses. But that's the beauty of guys like Tavares Cloud and James Kirkland, is that you're not necessarily interested in the 0 on the right hand of the ledger.
No.
That's the biggest fallacy about Floyd Mayweather and why he has not captured really the public's imagination, is because it's not really about being perfect. We don't expect people to be Rocky Marciano, but we want it to be compelling. And there's something about Tavares Cloud that you're captivated by him, and it's exciting because we like to see slugfest. We are savages. We are bloodthirsty. We don't apologize. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't if I was into really good, clean fun, I wouldn't be watching 2 guys beat each other up on a regular basis in gyms or, on TV or ringside. These guys are to me, Tavares Cloud, I looked at him and I said, this guy's the future. I mean, I was looking at Chad Dawson and saying, who's going to take this guy on? And man, Cloud, Dawson, in a couple of years, it's just all action. It's going to be an exciting fight.
And speaking of beating each other up, Urango and Bailey was a hell of a fight here. Randall Bailey, to me, showed the best of Randall Bailey and the worst of Randall Bailey, of why he was able to be a pretty good fighter, but not truly a world-class guy. Great power. That 6th-round right hand was a devastating shot. And I have to give Urango credit. A lot of guys that are muscle-bound, like the way Iron Twin is, they don't get up. He found a way to get up, and by the 7th, 8th round, I thought his consistent body attack really wore down Randall Bailey, who simply could not use his reach and jab effectively enough to keep off Juan Urango.
When you hear a guy in the corner say pressure, you need more pressure, watch the Urango Bailey fight. That's what they're talking about. He's just always right there. Every chance he gets, he's just getting to the body, and just kind of kept Bailey moving a little more than he wanted to, or a lot more than he wanted to. And just finally, I think mentally and physically, just broke him down.
The one thing that's surprising me about Urango is he does what I like to do, shopping back in the late 90s, layaway plan. He put it on layaway, never pay it off, though, and he's very judicious and very cautious in his punch output. But I thought in this fight, more than any other, the one thing he was very steady, and he built up momentum, and he basically ran right through Randall Bailey in the late rounds.
Well, yeah, the fight was kind of early on turning into, something where he was just going to be following Bailey around, and it was going to be a 12-round decision and kind of boring, and you could kind of see him make a shift and step it up a little bit and really just add more pressure, kind of double step in behind a little bit of a jab and just start putting more pressure, putting more punches together, and it was just tortoise versus hare, and eventually he caught him and ate his ass up.
And I know some people thought Randall Bailey was going to outbox him. Here's the problem with Randall Bailey. His mindset has never been to actually finesse a guy and to actually be cute and go through a fight by finessing and being really subtle. His thing is either going to knock you out or he's going to get run over. That's kind of been his Achilles heel, and it showed up on Friday Night Fights. So we come back, we wrap it up with news and notes. And we are back on the next round, brought to you by Everlast. Steve Kim, Gabriel Montoya. Yes, this shirt is a shameless plug. It also looks damn good on me. Here we go. First news and note, Tim Bradley, Nate Campbell has been overturned by the California State Athletic Commission into a no decision. That fight took place on August 1st. And then Daniel Santos will take on Yuri Foreman November 14th on the Pacquiao-Cotto fight. We'll get to that later, so keep your giggling to yourself. Here's the thing. Based on precedent, James Toney Hassan Rahman, and the overwhelming evidence, I don't think the California State Athletic Commission had any choice but to turn this into a no decision or a no contest.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, although it didn't seem like it really caused many waves on the message boards, or like anybody really went crazy. But what it did open up, and I think we haven't really had a chance to talk about this because we've been on hiatus, but is instant replay. It brought that conversation up, and I think I've always been kind of against it in the middle of a fight, stopping something to look at it. But at the end of the fight, instant replay would have been a great thing to have. We could have got the right decision right on the spot. And it would have been, we could have proceeded from there.
From a promotional standpoint, here's the thing. I don't think it means a doggone thing. Tim Bradley is looking at bigger game hunting.
That's true.
And Nate Campbell will just continue to complain more and more. And there's a certain degree. I like Nate Campbell. I respect him. But the act is getting a little bit old. I have to be completely honest about that. It's time for him to win a fight. Hopefully he gets Devon Alexander in St. Louis. I think that would be a very good test for Devon Alexander, making the first defense of his WBC belt. Yeah. But he is not getting Tim Bradley. No. Daniel Santos, Yuri Borman, I mean. Bob Arum promised the audience, I'm going to put on a spectacular undercard for you schmucks. Well, here's the thing. He's off to a very bad start. November 14th is a special night. Pacquiao-Cotto, to me, is the biggest, best night of boxing. And Yuri Borman, to put on that guy who goes around the ring faster than Usain Bolt, I think is an insult to you boxing fans.
Yeah, I would... I would agree. It's going to be a really boring fight. And if it's the co-feature, then it's just going to take the...
All right, if you're going to make this the co-feature, here's the thing. If you're going to put this on the card, because we're going to get it jammed down our throats. There's no doubt. Bob is going to do it. Make this the first fight of the broadcast at 6:07 when there's no one in the audience. Because you know what I want to call this fight? The potty break. Because when everyone has to drop a deuce or take a piss, this is the fight to do it. You need to get a couple of drinks. This is the fight to do it. You want to smoke a doobie? Hit your bong. This is the fight to do it.
You can actually do that during the fight. But yeah, this is the fight to be late to the pay-per-view at your friend's house too. Just kind of get there. It's at 6th, 7th round. What's happening? The same thing that was happening in the first 3.
I just want to say that the views of Gabriel Montoya don't necessarily reflect the views of Max Boxing or Everlast Worldwide. Here's another thing. Great schedule of fights that are taking place the rest of the year. The super middleweight, Super 6 on Showtime. Some very intriguing matchups. HBO has a very good second half of the schedule on pay-per-view and on the regular airwaves. What's the one event you're looking forward to?
Probably the beginning of the Super 6. I've been talking a lot about it in the mailbags. I think Pacquiao-Cotto is a really exciting fight. I'm looking forward to that, too. But I'm picking Andre Ward against Kessler, and I'm really looking forward to proving a lot of people wrong. I got a chance to be in Oakland with him this past weekend and watch him train, getting ready for his tune-up fight. And to me, the Super 6 is opening a new era in boxing, kind of reopening an era where we're going to begin to find out who's the best in the division based on everybody fighting each other. I think it sets a great example for the rest of the sport, all the promoters working together for a great common goal. I'm just looking forward to it.
I'm going to say the fight that I'm looking forward to because it's very intriguing and I think it will happen. It's still not finalized yet, but Kelly Pavlik's health, if it's cleared to go with that finger, I think it's going to be December 5th. Pavlik-Williams, to me, Kelly Pavlik does not win this fight, then he's just another tough, limited guy that can't beat the upper reaches, save Jermaine Taylor. Now, if he beats Paul Williams, all of a sudden he is back to being an elite guy, and you forget about Bernard Hopkins just a little bit more. That's the fight, because I think it is very dangerous on a lot of levels for Kelly Pavlik.
I think if Williams wins, then he gets to say, I am the guy I've been saying all along. I am one of the most feared guys in the sport. From 160 to 147, I'll take anybody on. Maybe Mosley, would be after that. It's looking a little bit too far ahead. But, that's a great fight. If that fight gets pulled off, it's going to be a great fight.
And Johnson-Dawson, the rematch that I've been calling for a year in Hartford, Connecticut. It's a hometown fight. You can never count out the Road Warrior. And I want to see, because I want to start to set the stage for Tavoris Cloud, Chad Dawson, and what a better way to do that. Now, we've been on vacation. We are now back. Don't call it a comeback. We have been here for years, as once James Todd Smith once said. But last week, we were on the road. Tell me, what were you doing last week, during the last week of your summer vacation?
I took off to Oakland to go check out Andre Ward at the King's Gym down there in East Oakland. I got to hang out with him and Virgil Hunter and watch him do about 5 rounds with a fighter who you'll find out about in the article this week. But 5 rounds, a lot of guys talk about him just being a boxer, doesn't really have a lot of power, not the most exciting guy. This is an exciting 5 rounds in the gym, man.
And you're on the record, upset special. You're going to pre-order it right now. You like him over Kessler November 21st.
Yeah, I do. I like him by decision. I don't like him by knockout, but I think his versatility, is going to outweigh Kessler's great 1-2 and his experience. I think Andre can give angles. He's not exactly Joe Calzaghe yet, but I think everything he's been building to, as he told me, has been coming to this moment.
All right, you were in Oakland. You didn't run into Too Short, did you?
No, as a matter of fact, I didn't. If I did, I would have avoided it.
Yes, freaky tales indeed. Now, I was in Hawaii for the fight at the Blaisdell Center, Honolulu, Hawaii. First championship fight in 33 years on that island. It was Brian Viloria against Jesus Uribe for the WBC junior flyweight title. I have to tell you, they got a pretty good crowd, about 3,000 to 4,000, and it's not a boxing market, it's an MMA market, but Brian Viloria is a guy that is starting to develop into a real pro. He beat a good, solid guy that looked like a bantamweight in there. I think there is a boxing market. I think it has to be developed, it has to be cultivated, but it's a great time out there. And Brian Viloria, I think, is going to make a nice little run because he is now settled in to an identity. And it's interesting to see boxing fans in other markets that aren't traditional markets. The thing that I noticed, Gabe, these guys stay early, they stay the whole time, and they'll stay throughout the whole card, even the walkout bouts, and they're very loud and enthusiastic. So I would hope to go there once again, and I'd love to see, within a fight or two, Brian Viloria against Ivan Coldron. I think that's the biggest fight to make at 108.
Yeah, that's the fight. That's definitely the fight. You got the classic pure boxer against, the boxer-puncher. More of a puncher-boxer,
Yes.
Brian Viloria. I can't wait to see that fight.
So, folks, we are back on the next round. We have a new sponsor. We're back in the press box, so we're going to be here for the rest of the time. Yes, we are back. The next round is brought to you on Everlast. So, on behalf of Gabriel Montoya and the rest of Max Boxing, till the next round, goodbye, everybody.